scattered. They were, imagine how you'd be. They just ran. And there's a picture in that book of them the next morning. Every one of them was killed because they ran, you know. And it wasn't long after that we started getting radio contacts. Saying, what the hell is going on there? And you know, I don't think anybody could have given a straight story of that at that time, of you know what had happened. It had happened so fast, and here I was. All I heard was a bunch of gunshots. I was next door, and when I walked out and saw what had happened, I couldn't believe my eyes. But I knew a lot of firing had gone on. I didn't hear the first part because there was scatter shots anyway because we were still taking the town and bringing prisoners back. But after that, everything settled down for the night.
Well,
Sergeant Funk he was, I don't know what he was thinking. He wasn't even taking aspirin, but he was truly upset what had happened. That was his reaction. You know, he just had his elbows on his knees and his chin in his hands, and he stayed that way all night. He didn't sleep a wink.
wow.
And then the following morning is what I was telling you about. I was waiting for C Company to assemble and move out. We were scheduled to move to the next town, and I was sidetracked by this Colonel. Can't remember his name right now. Shanley, yeah. And so he forced me on the truck with at gunpoint, gonna blow my effing head off if I didn't. And so I got in the truck.
So he wanted you
with
to
the wounded. He wanted me to escort the wounded
Okay.
back to the aid station. And I decided that I wasn't going. I didn't know where the damn aid station was. Had been fluid for days, and so I figured the best thing for me to do was to hop off first time the truck stopped, which I did, but it was 5 miles or so down the road, and there was no vehicles coming back towards Holzheim, and so I had to hike it all the way back. And at the point of departure of C Company was a stretcher with Lieutenant Weaver. He's one of our platoon leaders. He had been hit by a tree burst, shrapnel from a tree burst while I was gone, and then I went on into the woods where C Company was assembled, and made a mistake. I should have gone to the company commander right there, but I didn't. And he called me in a few days later, and wouldn't let me speak to explain why I wasn't there when Lieutenant Weaver was hit. And so he said he had 2 commendation letters he had written up he was going to tear up, and he wouldn't let me speak or anything. So the only thing that bothered me was he considered me the weak link in the chain that I didn't appreciate at all, and it bothers me till this day about that.
Mm-hmm. Did Lieutenant Weaver make it?
Oh, I'm sure he did. It was just apparently he'd gotten some in the back. I don't know whether it's flesh wound or not. I didn't check it. He was already dressed. The wound was already dressed. And I tell you the truth, I didn't know what the hell to do at that time. I was between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
So here I was only 20. I just turned 20, just 20 years old,
Wow.
and all this was going on, you know, and and things just weren't going my way. Period. You know.
You had already been wounded once, right?
Yeah, I had been. It was around my birthday on January 4th. I got a piece. Not much of a wound, but it was in the back from a bank of rockets called Nebelwerfers.
Yeah.
We call them screaming meanies because that's the way they sound. They screamed, and they landed all around me in this shallow ditch, and it blew off the back of my overcoat, and and a piece of shrapnel deflected off of a buckle on my harness, my pistol belt harness, and took a piece of skin. And I went back to get a new overcoat, and because the other one, the other one didn't have any back in it anymore, and I got a new pistol belt and harness, and medic took a look at my back and says, "Yeah, that was a." He just put a patch over it, and I got a new overcoat, another overcoat, and pistol belt and harness, and went on back to my location. You know, we hadn't pushed off that day yet, but we did because it was earlier in the morning at that time, and we were on our way to Thiers-du-Mont. And our C Company's objective was to take a position right at the end of the bluff overlooking Bielsheim. And when we got there, it was manned by Germans, and there was a god-awful firefight there. That's when Cullings got shot, and they yelled for medics from two directions. So behind him was a call for medic, you know, to my right was a call for medic, so I went right and he went in that direction. And I was going to fireman carry my man back, and it hurt. He had his scapula was hit. He was hit with, I don't know, I didn't see the damage, you know, the detailed damage, but I knew he was hurt pretty bad. And so I tried to put him on my shoulders, and it hurt him so bad he couldn't stand it. So I was holding on to him while he was limping back behind this mound. And I started working on him because the mound shielded us from all the firing that was going on. And I looked up, and one of the troopers was escorting Cullings back. He had a very similar wound to the one that I was tending. So we got both of them fixed up, and
Yeah, Collings was a hit with the wooden bullet, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the other one wasn't, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
But we lost. I didn't see them all, but they said 17 were killed in that skirmish.
Wow.
That's a big chunk out of a company.
Yeah. How many were in your company at that time? Do you know?
I don't know how many was at that time, but you remember that picture that you saw of going into whole time?
Mm-hmm.
It was 57.
Wow.
I remember that. And when I was wounded again in Schmidt, Germany, on February 11th, there was under 20 left. I was the last medic. I was the last medic and when I was evacuated.
Wow.
Yeah, I never will forget that. When I handed Sergeant Funk my 45 back, I couldn't help but cry. I didn't want to leave,
Hmm.
but I had to. I couldn't keep my eyes open.
Did you make it back to the unit after you recovered?
I did. I went to a hospital, general hospital in Liège, Belgium, and spent 30 days there. And let's see, that was on the morning of February 11th, and it was after midnight when I was on the operating table, and I guess I woke up about, I don't know, around 4 o'clock, and the only thing I knew was that I was hungry as hell. I hadn't eaten anything for a couple of days, so I ate this dry cheese sandwich like it was a steak, you know.
Wow.
And of course, the other thing that brightened things up too is this beautiful female voice talking to me. And of course, I couldn't see anything. I had patches on my eyes. And the doctor told me when he saw me afterwards, he said, "You were lucky as hell." He said, "You could have lost your eyesight completely, but you didn't."
Wow.
But my eyes were weak for the rest of the time in service, and a couple of weeks after I was discharged. And of course, I went to the VA in Richmond. They said, "This is not service connected." Does that sound typical?
Hmm.
So my younger brother, who had gone into the Army at age 16, after he got his basic field artillery basic training, he joined the Airborne and got qualified. And they found out how old he was, and they kicked him out.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And he went back in when he was 18, and he was already qualified. And anyway, he had joined the American